From relationship manifestations to determining what makes you happy, this is Rooted Black Girls with Farah and Afnan.
Representing everyday Black millennial women of multiple faith, cultures, and manifestation styles. All right, Afnan.
Period.
Period. How was your week last week?
It was good. I think so today we're filming it's the day after 4th of July, and so everybody in my circles is super like we're just celebrating 15 days after Juneteenth. That's about
it. Pretty much. The fireworks were non-stop. I'm like, when are they going to be sold out? Because I'm over this.
No, like I saw online there's allegedly like a shortage, but I couldn't tell. Like it felt like every one of my neighbors had a surplus, and the fireworks just didn't stop even until like 1 or 2 in the morning. They were still going, and I was just like, y'all need to go to sleep. That's it.
Yeah, one of my friends, she's a soror actually. She's one of my specials, and she follows Rooted Black Girls. She put on her Twitter, she said these fireworks are pretty much like I'm pregnant and I have contractions, and they're like, I'm starting to space them out. They're like every 2 minutes now.
She can.
She's so funny. I always tell her, I'm like, Shannon, you're so much funnier on Twitter than in real life.
Does she collect the memes and stuff like that and repost them, or is she like creating her own content? It's just funny.
Her own content from the top, and I'm like so impressed with how she formats her tweets. They're pretty impressive, and I like laugh out loud funny. But in real life, it don't connect for me. I'm like, Shanna's savage.
She just needs a little bit more prep time for it to connect.
I think so. Maybe she's just like thinking through it, but her tweet game is serious.
That's awesome.
Someone needs to pay her, but she's actually an attorney, so she is getting paid doing something else.
Right. That's awesome.
In addition, I feel like we heard a lot of feedback from our last episode, and I didn't just want to leave it there.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything that was interesting from our followers and friends?
Yeah, it's interesting. So like we filmed the episode and we edited it and we posted it, and then Fred came, he's like, oh, you guys are talking about the sexual assault and all the other stuff that's going on in the Somali community. Me and his best friend were talking about it, and I was shocked. I was like, what? One, because it's current events, and Fred, unless it's like Black history type current events, or it's like something pertaining to like directly to the Black community, he's not really like clued in. Maybe a little bit of sports, but even sports, not so much.
Yeah.
But anyway, to hear that him and his friend had been discussing it, he's like, yeah, we were just talking about it 2 days ago, and really like men just got to do better. And that was it. It was like, as women, we have thoughts and assumptions about like how guys talk about this type of stuff. But I was really, really impressed and happy with not just him, but a lot of guys who kind of gave me feedback were like, this is awesome. Thank you for having this conversation, and you're right, we just need to do better, period. And I was like, thank you God for no buts or but you guys could have and all the other stuff, they didn't hit us with a J. Cole.
Yeah. Ooh, and we had to be no name for them, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I heard some great things both from women and men who both follow us and that are friends of the show and friends of our lives, right? Because that is so connected. But from the women, they were just happy that someone was bringing it out and calling it out and having the conversation, just because I think, we can agree on that our culture, maybe rooted in Islam, maybe just rooted in our culture, has a lot of shame around it. And the idea of reporting can bring a lot of negativity to your family. But we have to think about, as we march on, I feel like millennials are finally taking that leadership role. We're taking the baton. And so we have these fighters with us as Generation Z. And so it's the idea around like, how do we march forward together, and what space are we creating? What are we going to be doing to no longer have this community centered around shame?
Yeah.
So I heard a lot around, women telling me that. With men, I heard a guy friend said, hey, I really appreciated the conversation. It seemed to like really skim on everything. And so it allowed me to like then take on the baton to then do more research so that I can see how am I participating in this, and how do I raise young Black men to not be participators of predatory behavior. And then he said, what else did he say? It was all really good. He said he didn't feel like we were preachy. So I was like, good, because that's like the last thing I hate, telling people what to do.
I think you did that really well in the episode too. You were like, listen. And I think it's important because we want to invite people in, but also want to be honest about the work all of us have to do. So I think you did a great job.
Thank you. I just hope that we can continue the conversation among the people that are both the victims and survivors of this, and the people who are perpetrating this behavior. And not to say that we have to have the conversation with our victimizers, or people who are making us victims, but like the community needs to have it so we don't create that relationship. So we just heard great feedback. We want to continue the conversation. If you guys want to hear more subjects like that, let us know, because a sister called us out and said, hey guys, I'd love for you to have this conversation. So we're always willing to talk about and bring light to subjects that really matter to our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that reminder, definitely like slide into our DMs, shoot us a message if you guys have anything that we should cover. Because just like Farah said, like we didn't know about this without that sister, a few sisters actually like sharing it with us. So thank you guys. We appreciate the trust that you guys have in us to say, hey, like this is something that we should be talking about. So we got a little community going. Yeah. So speaking of community, we'd really appreciate it if you guys could rate and review us. We are aiming for 100 ratings and reviews. So if you guys could help us out with it, that would be awesome. So jumping into today's topic. So despite popular belief, it is still COVID. You and I both know that, but some of these government officials don't seem to know that. Reopening just to close it back up. Yeah, so with all of like the time that we've kind of had, because there's certain activities that we haven't been engaging in, our lives are a little bit different still now that we're still in COVID. Have there been any things that you've had a chance to get around to that maybe you didn't get a chance to do earlier in the year or before that you've like been meaning to? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love this to be like lessons from COVID, but we're still like mid-swing. I think we're on like a stutter step. We had to go back. I'm like, oh my God, we're getting 50,000 cases in one day. And even at the height of COVID, we never reached those numbers. So in the mid-swing of coronavirus and COVID, I have learned a lot. I think it's because I had so much time during coronavirus to really think about, and all those things that were in the back burner of my mind of like, oh, I'll get to it. Oh yeah, my friend did say that. Oh, I should add this into my life. I just never did. And so Corona just really, I was like, I have no other excuse. And what I really went into and did more of is manifestations. And it actually was you who was probably the first person that I heard it from. We had a New Year's Eve dinner at that Turkish restaurant. Do you remember?
Yes, that was a while ago. How many years? That was a few years ago, right?
I think it was the year of like 2016 going into 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, and you were on the other side of the table, and I could just hear just a little bit, but I think you had just become engaged recently, and you were talking to the girls among the table around how kind of like the things in your life had manifested, but that you had put energy around like affirming yourself and the manifestation piece. Do you mind sharing with Nan? I know you're private, but like.
No, listen. So I actually cringe looking back at that. I would not shut up about manifestation.
You're so serious about it. I was on the other end of the table, but I was like, hold up, say it again.
Oh my, no, it's so funny. In COVID, you're not the only friend who came back around and was like, I finally tried it from 3 years ago. Like I had one of my friends, he lives in South Carolina. He has a child now. And so he was like, I've actually had time now that his sleep schedule is together. He's like, and it was a game changer. He's like, I wish I would have listened to this earlier, when I had my first child and da-da-da. So I appreciate that. I think at that time in my life, so around 2016, it was the year that I got married. Also the year that I got promoted at work, which was awesome. A lot of big change happened that year. And I remember, if I'm being 100% honest, y'all, I'm gonna be real honest. I was on the couch of my therapist. So on the couch, and I was just like, I want these things. And she's actually the one who shared with me that Louise Hayes kind of changed her life when she was going through her doctoral program. And so she's like, you need to listen to this. She's like, and I think it'll change your life, especially because you're somebody of structure. And it's like, you kind of need to be told what to do sometimes. It's just like, I don't want to research and do all these things. Just tell me what to do. So at that point I decided, she was like, well, what is it that you want? And then just go and get it. It's just that simple. So I had decided like, yes, I want to get married. I want to be married. Yes, I want promotion. Yes, there were some financial goals that I wanted to hit and some money milestones that I wanted to hit. And with that consistent work of listening to affirmations, and if you guys are not familiar with affirmations, they're literally just statements that you say about the future you want, but in the present tense. So, if you wanted to be a millionaire, for example, you don't say like, one day I'm going to have money. You would say, I am a millionaire. Wealth comes to me abundantly, easily. I'm constantly surprised by the money that seems to just shower my life. right? And if you say it enough in your present moment, it'll change your mindset and it'll attract these things. So the law of attraction, basically.
Mhm.
And it was so transformative. I'm so sorry to all my friends if you're listening. I would not shut up.
No, it was great. And it was like the mustard seed that started, right? And it took me, what, 3 years to finally get to that? Because that was December 2016, 2017. And so now we're 2020. That's 3 years. And I have a real issue around naming the things I want. And honestly, people are like, dua is like the easiest thing to do, but it's so hard for me because there's a fear of like, okay, the things you feel like you can control, although that's, of course, Allah is the controller of all things.
Of course.
But it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I know that with the intellect that I have, alhamdulillah, I know if I work hard, I can get what I want. And that's happened, right? But that's by the will of Allah. I understand that. But that's like an easy, direct relationship. But when it comes to the things I can't control, I have a real issue around making dua there out of fear of disappointment. And I know it's
What
horrible.
kind of things? Wait. Let's talk about it. What kind of things?
Oh my God. It's kind of personal.
I was just gonna say, like, what kind of things do you feel like are outside of your control, but that you really want?
Mostly relationship things, right?
Got it.
I can say like, hey, I want to go to Egypt this summer, and
Yeah.
I can make steps to get to Egypt, right? It's a tangible thing that I can work through in addition to the will of Allah, but something that I know I can do if I put my mind to it. I got to put my PTO up, I got to let the ladies know so they don't cuss me out. I got to get the plane ticket. I got to get the hotel. Like those are easy things for me to compute. But when it comes to like the things that I don't see, or let's say even my father passed away, Allah yarhamu, and of course like the prayers of your children carry on for you, but it's hard to compute that. It's like not as tangible, and so I have to make a constant concerted effort to do those things. Or around asking Allah for a spouse, I always tell my mom, she's like, Father, why don't you get married? I was like, do you want me to put a for sale sign on the corner, lady? Like, what do you mean right now? Like, what? I can't control that. I'm just chilling, bruh,
Yeah.
So those things, I'm just like, okay, well, do I want it? I hate even thinking about these things. I'm like, is this what I want? How do I get it? And then now I have to really relinquish control and ask Allah for this and let go and detach. And if you look at it, dua is very connected to manifestation.
Yeah.
Like you have to say these I am, I have statements, know and have certainty in Allah, and that faith and manifestation are so connected. And then also in the manifestation pieces, like you have to detach from the things that you want, like let it go. Like, like subconsciously, like that loop is hitting you. Like, and that's why it's so important to say these I am, I have statements. So you have a positive wheel going on in your house. But you have to detach and let go and go about your day and stay busy and productive. And not mill and fester these things that you want that then become like cankerous.
Yep.
So now mid-corona, right? The height of corona, I started with my manifestation journal. And I have to give a lot of credit to a sister. I don't want to put her business out, but she shared, I won't put her name out, but she's kind of like a Instagram friend, but I feel so connected to her. She's from the community, so I really love chatting with her when I have the opportunity. But she saw, we were on a live, and then she was like, hey, let's talk about this. And she was like asking me about the things, what are the things that you want in your life? I was like, okay, this is kind of a lot, but let me answer these questions. So I tell her, and she was like, wow, you really have like a low opinion about the things that you want. And then we ended up talking on the phone, and she said, yeah, you probably are just beaten up by the idea of like, oh, these things that you want that you can't control are just tough for you to now say, because you're just beaten up by the fact that you haven't received the things that you want, these things. Yeah. So then she told me that what she did around manifestation, she started writing a journal around saying that she had already had the things that she wanted. So it was like, I am drinking coffee and I'm headed to the airport to work in this field. She wanted to work in like health and maternity. Yeah. Around the world. And so she manifested the career that she wanted. And all these jobs all required like PhD master's programs. And she had like a degree that was in the field, and just a bachelor's degree. And she was able to manifest and get this job where she travels the world to help women in maternal health. around
That's
the
all.
world with a bachelor's degree. And so other things manifested for her, like her husband, even like she's like weight loss, I want a six pack. Like she was like, it can be anything, but you have to know that you can get it and then detach from it.
Yep.
So I finally went on that journey.
Yay.
Yeah.
How has it been?
It's been pretty cool. I really am quite amazed. I'm almost like, oh wow. Like, oh, okay, this
So
is
some of
really
your things have come true, it sounds like.
it has. I've even wrote things around. I'm pretty cool, calm, and collected, but sometimes when I get hot, I can't control it. I'm like, ah, dang. And you've probably noticed that, right? And now in my journal, I'm just like, okay, when things that are not favorable that goes on in your life, you're calm, you're cool, you're collected, you're able to articulate your thoughts, you're able to take the time that you need, you're able to make the uh, create the boundaries that you need. And so it's I don't know, but in this last 2 or 3 months, I'm quite amazed by my level of calmness that I'm able to achieve, the way that I'm able to articulate myself, the way that I don't place blame on other people and really look to how we can collectively like move forward when we're both ready, you know, and allowing people to be ready. And sometimes I love for people to be ready when I'm ready. I'm like, you need to get ready, okay? Because I'm here.
I've done that too.
You know?
Like,
Yeah.
are you done yet?
Are you done yet? So I feel like I'm rambling here, not saying much, but I did, you know, work around some subjects that have come true to the point where I'm like, ooh, did I really want this? Because it's happening. And I'm like, you almost have to know exactly what you want or be willing to take the jabs of like, oh, wow, I got it. Not sure if this is best for me. And
Child, listen.
reformulate, know that you have that power to manifest it, and
Mhm.
then re-manifest something else. But
Something
it's
else.
amazing. It makes you question what you really want in your life.
Yep. I'm so glad that you said that. I have realized as well because I have been on a similar like manifestation journey for a while now. And I realized that once I got those things that I had prayed for and that I really thought were going to make me happy, there were definitely some things where I was like, is this really what I want to do? So, for example, right, um, at that point in my life, I really wanted to be a manager in the sense of I wanted to be a boss, right? And I wanted to have direct reports and all this other stuff, but I wanted a different audience, right? So, you know, I talked about how I used to work at Target and those used to be like associates, like that's like cashiers and whatever, but I wanted to elevate that. And so when I got that and I manifested that into my life, I realized that that is stressful as hell and it's not fun managing or being a part of managing other people's careers. And so I was like at a crossroads where I'm like, okay, what was it that I really wanted to do? And something that I had to unlearn is that the thing that I thought was really going to make me happy and feel like, oh my God, contributed to a lot of stress, anxiety, and unhappiness, if I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had to redirect, just like you just said, and realize like I really don't want any direct reports. I don't want to be a boss about nothing, nothing at all. I want to boss myself around. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't give me any more responsibility.
Uh-huh.
And I really wanted to work from home. Whereas before, I wanted to work in like a corporate office, and I thought that was going to be so cool in the city, and that was cool, and I'm alhamdulillah for that. But I realized that in the next chapter of my life, I really wanted to be home, and I manifested that in January, right before COVID happened. So while alhamdulillah I got to work from home, I really was appreciative of the fact that I was able to use kind of like what you're saying, like those affirmations to pull something different in my life,
Yeah.
and also to forgive myself to say, it's not me being greedy or selfish or whatever if I change my mind about what makes me happy. That
Yeah.
was hard, right? It's like imagining you want like, this car, this house, and then you get it. And then people are looking at you like, how are you unhappy, Heifer? Like,
Yeah.
didn't you nag and complain and wish this into your life and now you have it? And so part of it honestly was also being kind to myself and saying like, okay, so you knew this, you thought this was gonna make you happy. Now you know it's not.
Yeah.
Let's for something else. Something that's really helped me with this, attending one of the courses online, because a lot of institutions were offering free classes, and I believe it's Yale, but there is a e-course that they're offering for free. It's called The Science of Well-Being, taught by Dr. Laurie Santos, and it's really, really remarkable. And I think I recommend it to anybody who's kind of done manifestations, is now looking to figure out like what's really going to make them happy in their lives. She talks about the science of happiness, and without getting too much into the weeds and like nerding out on the research, basically she says with proof is that we have shown through data that human beings are very, very, very bad at predicting what will make them happy. Small example is if you ask 10 people, right, if eating a cookie or a salad will make them happier, after a given amount of time, most people will say like, oh, for sure, cookies make me happy, for sure, right? But when you ask them after a period of time, they'll realize, oh, it actually doesn't make me happy. It contributes to weight or whatever the case may be, or I feel sluggish, or my sugar is now high and then low, or whatever the case may be. So she's talking about how experiences are much more likely to give you happiness if they're in short burst, which is why like a trip to Bali for a week will make you more happier than the fancy new car that you just bought, because as human beings you can get used to it, and that becomes your new normal, right? Which I thought was crazy. So the course is 4 weeks. I'm in the second week now, and so
Girl,
that's
don't give these dudes more information around their ridiculous behavior. That's why I need Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday rather than Monday all day,
Yeah, that is not what I've been implying at all, but it's a good disclaimer for us to have. And I think it's just super interesting because it's making me reevaluate, like, over the years, these are all of the things that I said that I wanted. I can go back into my journals and see when I wrote down the list, and to your point, close the book, put it away, and let God do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, ugh, I got this stuff, but am I really happy? Like, is this the stuff that I really want? Are these the relationships, to your point, that I really wanted to keep and that I really wanted to have in my life?
Yeah.
So I'll keep you guys posted on how that goes. But I think manifestations is super game changing for any adult. And I think that being honest and open with yourself about what makes you happy, and giving yourself grace and space. Like, you're really great at that. I'm not. I kind of box myself in a little bit with like, this is the plan you made and you're not sticking to the plan.
Great quality though. I wish I was a little more concrete around plans.
I wish I was a little bit more fluid as well, like a little bit more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that just goes to show that all of us have work to do.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like what I've learned, from COVID, and I'm still working on. So I'll keep you guys posted on how the class goes.
Yeah, happiness is interesting. Please continue to give us information about this class. Next time you see a class, definitely send it over to me. I don't know how I don't think I put a lot of weight on happiness. I think it's kind of just a constant state of like, okay, I choose to do this, or I recognize and try to have gratitude around moments of happiness when I see it. And I think I'm kind of a basic human being where I think it's a small bit of things can just make me happy. It's like, oh, do I have a roof over my head? Can I get that salad that I want? You know what I mean? It's not even like
the kale salad.
Have a kale salad, whether I make it or if I go to that expensive $17 restaurant, salad restaurant in Atlanta called Upbeat. But yeah, happiness is something that's quite interesting to me. I don't know if happiness for me is connected to the things I want, right? And that I don't get. And I think that's maybe the thing that I struggle with, are the things that I want that I can't ascertain, I can't obtain. But I don't know how much I connect that to happiness. I think sometimes when you recognize that you don't have the things that you necessarily want, then you go into dips during the day, for sure. So maybe there is a small connection there. I don't know.
Yeah, the course talks about happiness has like two components, right? It's like, generally how happy are you in your life, and how often do you feel that you're in a state of happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's research that shows genetically you're predisposed to a certain level of happiness, right? Just off of your genetics, which is crazy.
I believe that.
Yeah, totally. Right. And so there's also certain habits that you can create to increase how many moments you have in happiness, and how that ultimately changes how satisfied you are with your life. Mm-hmm. So I think, to your point, you're 100% right, spot on, right? There's like, oh, I'm happy that I have a roof over my head, gratitude. And then there's also like, oh, but I feel happiness because I've brought these things into my life. So you're 100% right, which is super funny. Maybe you should be teaching this course to me, because
no, I think just through life, I've had low expectations. I initially had zero expectations, but then I realized that's not a good state, of like not expecting anything from the people that you've created dependent relationships or attached relationships with. And so now moving into being an adult and formulating and keeping relationships, it's like, okay, I can have expectations of you, but then I recognize that you're human, right? And I think happiness is understanding that ebb and flow of relationships and understanding how people may present one day and how they may not show up the next day, and giving people grace. So I think interpersonally, that may be kind of a tough thing to examine, like happiness with other people. That's something different than the happiness I internally have with my own self. Internally, I'm good. Like, I'm good, okay? But then sometimes the relationship with others that you can't control. I can control myself so well, but like other people, and sometimes I almost don't want to venture out into these relationships with other people, friendships, albeit all of the above, because you can't control it. And I know that that's not a great station to be in either. Like and I'll leave it here because I think we're going into a whole different episode. But Dr. Duyan, she told me this a long time ago. She's also my line sister. She was like, "Hey, Farah, you live your life very low risk, but I can imagine that it's also low reward, like this kind of like basal level reward where you're kind of like generally happy, you're generally good, you have a lot of things going for you, but because you live low risk lifestyle, you automatically get a low reward lifestyle." And she pushed me to say, hey, I would encourage you to live like maybe a more moderate, higher risk in areas that make sense to you, because cognitively, I think you can decide what's good, what's not, and then see what the reward system looks like. And so I did try to do that in 2019. And then now I think with the manifestation affirmation piece of like having an understanding that the things you want to have worthiness associated with it, and that you deserve these things, and that you are connected to the things that you want, and you will receive it from God and the universe, I think is the perfect balance there.
Yeah. And I think we're all just trying to find balance and find ways to make ourselves happy, whether it's COVID in our relationships with food or whatever that may be. And so we encourage all of you guys to always be looking for the best ways to keep yourselves healthy and happy. And I think we'll end the episode here, but we'll check you guys out next week. Later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.